Welcome to the Crack Cellar, as the prophecy was once undone. I'm Two Spirit Penguin Daniel.
And man, oh man, is my brain the broadest of casters.
Is it broader than the world map of Diablo IV?
I don't think it's that broad.
Nah.
I think my brain's broader than the D4 map, to be honest. It's not that broad.
When you saw that world map, were you surprised by the size?
No.
No?
Maps existed forever. They were just like pointing to a part of the map where it took place. I'm like, cool. We've known this whole sanctuary place has existed since like D2, so
Do you think the whole map is playable?
fuck no.
Nope.
You'll probably go to certain areas maybe for DLC or something like akin to going to Mount Ariat in D2, or didn't you go back to Mount Ariat in D3?
Yep.
That wasn't for the DLC though, was it?
No, that was the main
last
D3
act.
game, yeah.
Yeah. Where'd you go for the DLC?
I don't even really remember anymore, honestly.
Well, anyways,
Yeah, I only played through the DLC one time. The DLC, I hate using the expansion one time, and it was pretty.
I bet you will go back to Karas, I think is what it's called, the jungle place from D2 in Act 3, where Mephisto was at.
Yeah.
Because it's seeming pretty strong at this point that the dog is Mephisto, and if it's not Mephisto, it's at least Diablo. But the symbol on the dog's head is Mephisto's seal, Haradrim seal. So it's pretty much confirmed through lore fishing that that dog is most definitely Mephisto. And fine, I think I can't remember if this is 100%, but I remember hearing, or it was just like briefly talked about, like it was fact that Lilith is the daughter of hatred specifically. So that's the daughter of Mephisto. So that would make even more sense that Mephisto's involved. And anyways, going full circle, that's why I think we'll at least go back to Karas, because that's where we originally picked up Mephisto's soulstone and killed it, right?
Yeah. Wow, dude. Bringing Mephisto onto the side of the good guys is a bold move, man. I'm not sure if that tracks.
Side of the good guys, I think. But Mephisto's the oldest of the primevals, so he's the wisest. He's always the one. This is something I learned a little bit ago that maybe you don't know. But according to the lore, I don't know if they did. This is probably way after the fact of D1.
Retconned lore, yes.
Not retconned, more like filled in, because it just never existed. I mean, D1 lore was pretty vague, but nonetheless, the origin supposedly goes that the D1 of Mephisto was being banished in Karas during the events of when you were playing D1 and taking out Diablo. So they got taken out relatively around the same time. The whole reason Tristram fell under the blight, essentially, of the undead and then slowly went to shit is that Mephisto actually corrupted Leoric's son. He was the one that corrupted Leoric's son and sent him back to Tristram, pretty much trailing hell into Tristram, and because supposedly Mephisto somehow knew that Diablo was buried under the ground near Tristram. So that's what put the whole events of D1 into swing. And then during the prime, a peak of D1's events, when you're playing essentially as one of the heroes, he's being killed and banished in Baras. According to the lore.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I don't know what is lore anymore. We have billions of people writing fan fiction, and then like the people that are supposed to be making the real thing, you watch it and it's like, this feels like fan fiction too. Everything at this point feels a little bit like fan fiction, doesn't it, Broadcaster?
Well, I think we just have shitty writers, is what you're trying to say. But, I will say everything I just said sounds pretty solid and not horrendously bad, and,
no,
just pushed, squeezed into the storyline for no reason. So that's why I repeated it, because I would accept it. So
yeah, it's fine.
Nothing else established before that, so
I'm guessing
actually, hear that stuff.
I'm
It's not like
guessing.
they established something and they were like totally rewrote it to put in a woman or something like that.
Yeah, it was probably written a long time ago, not recently. Whatever you just said is probably like around when Diablo 3 came out, right? So that was
I'm
like
pretty sure that's
2010,
when.
2012. When was that
Yeah.
game? Around there?
Well, I think most of this comes from some type of physical book you can buy called like the Book of the Herodrum or something, and
Mm-hmm.
like it has just like a shit ton of stories and lore in it. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, lore is lore. Most people don't give a fuck. So let's just talk about what really matters, and that is the necromancer. What's your verdict, broadcaster?
oh, he was the shit, dude, but he got nerfed. So
Oh,
I think the druid's gonna come on top for the early access. We'll see when we get those 4 days of early access who's on top. But seeing the buffs the other day, pretty sure druid's set to take the reins.
yeah. I actually didn't think Druid was bad in beta, but apparently they were underperforming. So it's weird
It
though, because I
was
took it to level 15 and it one shot everything. Like I did the bear build, which is tank. It's not even high damage, and I was just going through and just swiping and one shotting everything. Like literally everything just died when I looked at it. But apparently it was underpowered, so I don't
I
know.
think that was just people not understanding the builds because like the people's opinions changed on things super fast. I remember people were saying the barbarian really sucked, and I think he pretty for the most part he does. But there was one build you could pretty much put him down that would turn him into a pretty decent killing machine. That
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people just didn't realize, so they all wrote off the barbarian. Which I mean, relatively to other characters, yeah, he was the weakest because he had not nearly as much versatility. But I think every character was all right, but really suffered from the we have clearly one build out of the three that you're allowed to pretty much do with each character that's better than the rest. And
Yeah.
I didn't like that. And it's core that's a balancing thing, so they'll probably get it right. Um, like with the whole letting I don't know if you read the buffs and the debuffs or not, but they're going to allow the skeletons to die quicker now, so you have to actually utilize the corpses more with the necromancer, which makes a lot more sense. And
Yeah. Those
weakens
skeletons
the
were
skeleton.
immortal.
Yeah, they were OP as fuck.
Yeah. I totally get that one.
So there's things like that which give me hope that at least it's going to cause a little bit more versatility with the builds. But from what I saw, it was everyone pretty much found out what the best thing was almost immediately within the beta. And that
Mm-hmm.
was just 2 days. So, or how long was the beta? A week?
It was 2 weekends in a row. The first one
No,
was like the exclusive one for the pay pigs, and then the second one was free for everyone.
you mean us?
Yeah, I mean us. Uh, I'm ashamed, dude. When I think about pre-ordering a deluxe version of a game, that's like against my religion. I feel like when I think about it, I feel deep down shame that I usually never feel in
You're
life.
not. You will never reach Shangri-La, dude.
Oh, dude. Because this game, I mean, I didn't think it was horrible. I didn't think it was amazing either. It felt it felt more like D1 than D3, which made me happy because the D3 style of art and color and just felt I never liked it. It just felt like Disney Diablo to me. That's what D3 always felt like. This one has like the muted kind of monochromatic color saturation from D1. Uh but still it just has some weird elements to it. Like it is sort of like an MMO, but it isn't. And they sort of stole the entire Lost Ark identity, but they have their CEO or whatever, their lead dev on interviews be like, no, this is not an MMO. This is a pure action RPG. And just like, but bro, I played Lost Ark and I played your beta and it felt very similar.
Yeah. I think the only thing missing in slash announced is the getting your own house.
Yeah, pretty
You
much.
know,
Yeah.
I think
Uh,
that's pretty much the only thing missing from the equation at this point. Yeah, it's a weird one. I feel like I was watching some guy talk about D4 and he was saying it was funny because I totally disagreed with him. He was comparing Path of Exile and Lost Ark and even D3 and D4 all together. And he was considering like Lost Ark and Path of Exile as like these two different versions of perfecting the action RPG uh, realm, the dungeon crawler action RPG realm. And D4 was somehow this like breaking new ground project, where they were trying to revolutionize how action RPGs are looked at. And for one, I didn't really fucking understand where he was coming from because, like you said, it's pretty much just a game that has stolen all the good features of modern day action RPGs that it has not been able to do in the last decade. It just because Blizzard is just a company that milks games dry. That's just how it is. So they've been out of the game for like what? When did D3 like launch?
I feel like it was 2012, right?
Yeah. 2012. So like 11 years ago, right? So they've literally sat on their ass and just watched other people perfect the genre they created, and then came out with a game that, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, we bought it. I'm definitely gonna play it, but I'm not looking at it like, holy shit, this is revolutionizing gaming or even the genre. I think if anything, D4 cements the systemic problem of gaming right now, that it's just a stale enterprise.
Yep.
Where you're just seeing
everything
cutter, repetitive, polish the turd up more and more until we can bill it as a new version, and it's, I guess it will last as long as it lasts. But I think most people you talk to, even people that will like this game and defend the shit out of it, I mean, they'll probably agree with me on some level. It's just like, it's not like bringing to the table what D1 brought or even what D2 brought. It's not, revolutionizing RTSs like Warcraft. Well, I mean, Warcraft and StarCraft are RTSs. See, there's a whole other argument, like Blizzard literally is a genre of gaming in a sense with RTSs and stuff. Like there's no one that really can come close. You can compare, you can go out there and you say Command and Conquer and Age of Empires and other games like that. But there's this dude, I mean, come on. Nothing ever got close to what even StarCraft 2 is to this day, which is also a 10-year-old game, which took 10 years to get to from StarCraft 1, if you don't remember, So,
well, I mean,
like, think about that 20 years.
I think StarCraft 1 actually came out in like 97, dude. Like the Brood War, I think, came out in 98 or 99.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I mean, it's longer. But think about it. That's 20 plus years of no competition in just that genre alone. So I guess what I'm trying to say, long story short, is just that Blizzard they don't have to fucking revolutionize the wheel. They made the wheel. And none of these motherfuckers are trying to make or have like shown them anything cool enough to get up off their asses and make something new. Apparently, that's where my perspective's at. That's where how I look at D4. I'm just like, yeah, cool. I mean, I'm gonna play it. It's a Blizzard product. I mean, it's gonna fucking be good.
It's a Blizzard bunny ears product. That's sort of the root of the problem. Is when I say that everything feels like fan fiction now, it is essentially because none of the people that made any of these franchises originally are there anymore. They're all gone. It doesn't matter which franchise. You name a franchise. The people that made that franchise are gone now. And the people making new content or the new game or the new version, whatever you want, whatever it is, it's not the people that made the original. It's not the person who wrote the original in most cases. Obviously, there are going to be a few exceptions out there. But
probably not somebody that was even at the company when that shit was around.
Everyone at Blizzard's gone now. Like they're all gone. All those dudes from the early 2000s and late 90s that made Blizzard what it is, they are all gone. And we have fucking 25-year-old college graduate chicks from fucking UNC writing Diablo now. And there's no real easy fix for it. It is reality, and it's you either get to choose to embrace what you can have or lament what you can't. So when I pigged out and I bought the deluxe edition of Diablo 4, I was embracing my the Matrix, really. You know, I'm taking the blue pill, broadcaster. I'm taking the blue pill.
Because you didn't do that with D3, did you?
Well, that was a different time, man. I mean, back in 2012, there were still a lot of OG Blizzard people there, still working there.
But you didn't do well. That even proves my point further. Then you didn't buy any. You didn't like pre-purchase D3 or get the deluxe. Didn't. So that, I mean, that just goes to show you that
there was no early access. They just bribed me. The 4-day early access.
They did the same thing with D3.
They did?
Yeah, for sure.
I guess I just didn't give a fuck or didn't know. I'm not sure which.
But I mean, what I'm trying to say is D4 is at least significant enough to the point where I don't think it's ridiculous to pre-purchase it. I mean, you're gonna buy it and you get incentives for pre-purchasing it. It's not that big of a deal. I have a problem with people that just pre-purchase something before there's any type of like review or previews out. It's just crazy to me that people it's like Fallout 4 now taking pre-orders or something, and or not Fallout 4, it's Fallout 76 now taking pre-orders, and they see like a video of not even gameplay, and they're like, "Oh shit, I'm pre-ordering that as soon as I can."
Yeah, it's like, those are I call those people identity gamers.
Yeah,
we both know a few of them. Sure. They really believe that video games, and specifically the video game franchise they've deemed theirs, their home team, if you will, is their identity. It's no different than the dude who paints their car like we live up in the Seattle area. How many times have you seen cars painted like a Seahawks car with fucking cringe ass Seahawks paint and little fake wings and shit? It's those people, but for video games.
Oh yeah,
and I get it.
Street Fighter 6 is coming out, right? Yeah. You're gonna get that.
Yeah.
if they give you like free access to a character or whatever, I mean, why wouldn't you pre-order?
Yeah, I mean,
get it.
But I don't. That's the thing. I never pre-order any games.
You thought you saw the preview of those thighs, dude. You're kidding.
I think D4 is the first game I've pre-ordered in the last 10 years.
Cammy didn't make you want to pre-order 346?
No. I'm going to get it, probably. I'm not even sold 100% I'm going to buy it day one. I feel like I'm going to, but I don't fucking know anymore, man.
Guess they killed off Bison, dude.
Yeah.
Bison
dead, dude. They gave his costume to Sigma in Overwatch 2. Season 3, bruh.
What the
fuck? This segment brought to you by Blizzard.
The ghost of Raul Julia is gonna fucking developer.
Oh man, all the best ones die early.
Guy was gangster, dude.
Fuck yeah, he was. So I mean, I like the color scheme more in D4. I already mentioned that, but the actual quality level of the graphics I thought were pretty bottom tier. What did you think about the graphics, generally speaking, in terms of fidelity? Not style.
I think fidelity, they're definitely better than D3. Like night.
A little.
Go back and look at D3 more.
I actually did. I actually did. Before, yeah, because I thought I was crazy.
Back to look at the end because I forgot exactly how D3 ended. And some of the gameplay, I thought it looked worse than I remembered. I was like, holy crap. It made me actually appreciate D4 even more.
But were you watching footage of max graphics?
I mean, pretty damn sure.
Okay, well, I don't know what you saw, but I saw footage of the last boss, and I know for sure it was max graphics. And, it's not as good as D4, but I'd say if D4 is 100%, the footage I saw of D3 was like 75. Like, it was a chunk of difference, but nothing crazy. Not what you'd expect for over a decade of graphical growth.
Yeah, but I don't think that like graphical fidelity is like pretty like that's not the most impressive thing. I think the detail in the environments
Yeah,
is a lot better.
I agree
Like
with you on that. Yeah.
like when you're going through dungeons and they're giving you those like I don't even know what you call them, but those like I guess skyboxes or outside box environments where it's just like you'll never get to explore that part of the dungeon, but you get what I'm saying. Like there's statues and shit going all around. Those look way better in D4. I mean, when you go back to D3, you can see like how plain its environments look in comparison.
Yeah. Well, I think D3 actually pushed its graphics hard. Like, I think when D3 came out, its graphics were really good for the time. And
Oh yeah.
I think with D4, the graphics are okay for the time. Like, not amazing, not bad. Just kind of straight down the middle from my perspective. And I'm running at max. So it's not like I'm playing D4 on like medium low graphics and bitching about the graphics fidelity. I'm maxing it out, and it's good. My least complaint of the game is the graphics. So I don't really have, to be real honest, and maybe I'm a shill, I don't have a lot of complaints about the game in general. I enjoyed what I played. If anything, I would say some of the story is good and some of it has this air of cringe that has me worried for the future.
Yeah, no doubt. I think all of us, I think me, you, Alex, and even Stormy detected it.
Mm-hmm.
Like at those certain points in the game, it reminded you awful a lot like Lost Ark's cringe ass writing. Where it's like the demons are coming, the demons. It's all about these fucking demons.
Wasn't there one cutscene where they actually said the demons in the exact same way they do in Lost Ark?
Yeah, it was almost like a call out. It was weird.
That was weird.
That had me worried. I was like, God, I hope this storyline's not nearly as bad as Lost Ark.
Yeah. But what do you think about the story so far? That's only one act.
I like the concept. I like the concept that like somehow Mephisto has escaped the void of whatever he was sent to when he was killed and is like in a beast, a dog.
So you're real sold on that theory.
I like it because it's kind of cool. Like, the fact that a primeval is in such a weak position, so he has to do a little subterfuge,
Mm-hmm.
Little play good guy and then turn on him. It's going to be a cool moment to see if like you as a character, because the storyline could take an interesting point towards the end. They could rather make Mephisto more of an antagonist than just a pure evil entity going forward, which I think would be the lesser of the two ideas I'm about to bring up. Or they could do the character flips into an evil person storyline where the people you are in D4 aren't necessarily like the type of people that would be fighting with like your predecessor heroes from like D3 or 2. Like you can consider the bad guy in like their perspective type of situation. I think would be a cooler storyline to go forward. Like you actually serve Mephisto because he like saved your life essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, he did me right, and he's not fucking everybody, or he's agreed not to fuck everybody. Because he even said it in the beta. What you saw in the beta storyline that
allegedly he said,
he likes how. Well, yeah, he's just like, I like how the way things are right now, and this bitch is about to fuck shit up for me. Mm-hmm. So if that's even remotely true, I mean, that's kind of a benevolent fucking perspective from a prime fucking evil.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the story starts out real strong with that fucking Game of Thrones style intro with the little village.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hope there's more of that to come.
Yeah, because that's kind of the thing that worries me the most about the beta. Not that I'm worried because something good happens in the beginning, but more worried that was really the only good thing in the story that really happened the whole time was the very beginning. And then really the rest of the way, it's either mediocre or below mediocre. Would you agree with that? Like the beginning is the high point, not even close.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the end is pretty good, but this is my problem with D4, really.
I thought the end was ho-hum as fuck, but go on.
The bosses don't seem climatic
Not at all.
at all. Like
mm-hmm.
the way you enter in the threshold of the boss room, the repetitiveness of the dungeons, it makes boss encounters, other than the butcher randomly find, like the actual hard butcher that finds you out in the middle of nowhere and just can one shot you essentially. That's the only thing that has like this soul feel to it, where you're just like that boss battle is memorable.
Mm-hmm.
No other boss battle is memorable in the beta.
I
And
didn't
that's the whole first
even
act.
I didn't even think the final boss was the final boss. When I got to the act boss, I thought it was some mini boss thing. It felt really simplistic and anticlimactic as fuck in retrospect. It just was not a act boss of Diablo. It just wasn't. But
no, that's what D3 definitely did better.
Yes, D3, for all the shit I'll talk about it had act bosses down pat. They were all good.
It's done bosses the best out of any Diablo so far, I think. When I think of D3's bosses, I think they're like the best part of D3. The way they were. Like got like they were super creative on how you fought them and the rooms they were the design of the rooms you fought them in.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was superior design.
Yeah, and I'm noticing already an alarming amount of invuln mechanics in D4, and invuln mechanics are just like a cheesy, cheap way for developers to sort of balance and design their battles. The more invuln phases, the more that type of crap you see in a boss fight, pretty much the worse the boss fight is designed, generally speaking. Now, you can use some invuln crap to good effect if you do it artfully and tastefully, like a nice Playboy spread. But this felt more like hustler territory to me, especially with that boss with the girl and her mom. That one really rubbed me the wrong way. It's like a fucking 2-minute fight that they extended to like 8 minutes through shit tons of invuln dead time.
Yeah, I can hear that.
I hope that's not
too much. I don't play nearly as much MMOs as you do, so you definitely can pick up on that a lot more than me. But
as long as it's sparingly and it's not every fight and overused, I'll be fine with it. But it's just, it felt a little heavy in Act 1. In fact, I really like those type of mechanics at the end of games when there's more at stake, and the beginning isn't supposed to be full of like really phase transitions. I guess this is just a design perspective I have personally, but I don't think that there should be shit tons of phase transitions in your early boss fights of an RPG that's going to be potentially 40 hours long. You should not have fights in the first 4 hours that have 6 fucking phases. That's just my opinion. But
no, it's definitely not only a pacing issue, but just like the perception of the scale of what the game scales to, because then it like sets this pace that it most definitely won't live up to towards the end.
Yep.
You know, where people are like, well, I mean, this game didn't really get much harder, did it? You know?
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Same thing with the loot too, though. I mean, you look at it's just like it's definitely a design choice, you know, where like we were playing Act 1 and we were getting rares and legendaries and, you know, gems to drop. I mean, in previous Diablo, like D1, for instance, gems were pretty rare in Act 1.
I don't even think they existed in Act 1.
You could only get, I think, chipped gems to drop, and
I thought those started in the catacombs, man. Are you sure you could get chipped gems in Act 1 of D1?
Catacombs, not D1, D2.
D2, okay, never mind.
D2. D1, I don't think there was sockets in D1, was there?
I feel like there was.
No, charms and gems were introduced in D2.
Are you sure that the Sierra expansion didn't add gems? I feel like I remember gems from D1.
I'm pretty damn sure there's no gems in D1. But, I mean, nonetheless, like what I'm saying is like gems and socketing and, I mean, just everything in the game, like the way rarity scaled seemed appropriate as this axe went on, you know? But like in this game, I mean, you didn't even get halfway through Act 1 and you were getting legendaries to drop and shit. It really kills like the journey for better loot vibe, you know, where you're like, you kind of want to get teased and get to the better, like further in the game to get a chance at the better loot and slowly increase those odds. You know, that's the whole point of progressing a dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of throwing all the best stuff at you.
Hopefully just for beta. Hopefully just for beta.
Yeah. I get the feeling it's not like that because the way the transmog systems work now and
legendaries should not drop in Act 1. If they're going to drop legendaries in Act 1 in the actual game, they have idiots designing their fucking progression. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Because remember, you can level up the gear now with materials. So it's not
like... the literally the worst part of phone games they're bringing into D4. Yay.
Yeah. So...
Yep.
Yeah, that's really a dumb mechanic. I didn't even use it in the beta either, to be honest. Like, I never leveled up a piece of armor once.
No. Yeah, I mean, that's not what we're there for. Trying to, like, grind like that's pointless in a beta that no progression goes through. So
also didn't feel necessary at any point.
That too. That's another thing is, other than one really out of whack overtuned boss, most of the game felt so easy.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's another thing to bring up is the weird, like, power scaling of bosses. Like, you just, like, you'll crush 90% of everything in D4, and then all of a sudden you'll just come across this one random dungeon boss that will just wipe your ass across the floor. That will make you totally reset your build and think about something else to try to squash it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of cool, you know, I guess.
It's, yeah, I mean, it can be if done the right way. I think the scaling right now is super out of whack, and I hope that all progression in the game isn't impacted by it, because scaling and progression are almost synonyms. It's, if one's bad, the other's usually bad, and what you just said about legendaries has me even more worried. But, you know, other than these kind of meta issues, the game itself was pretty solid. It ran good. There were no bugs. There was a lot of stuff to do, but it was kind of pointless. You found out that all the dungeons are identical per zone, so every zone has its own dungeon, and then every dungeon in that zone looks like that dungeon, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
That kind of... You know, I almost feel like they came out and started saying, oh no, this isn't an MMO, right after that was leaked or released, however that info was disseminated. It almost feels like defense. Like, hey, why are you judging our dungeon? Like, this isn't a MMO.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, it kind of concerns me that what they're going to consider content.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like from most of the game we haven't seen yet, and maybe even future DLC expansions and shit. Like, it just seems like a pretty bad lie to me to say each act has 25, 30 dungeons or whatever, and all of them are the fucking same with a slightly different boss. You know, that's bullshit. Those aren't different dungeons. That's the same dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
You're just giving us putting different carrots on the stick for each one with these aspects and calling it a day, which seems pretty fucking lazy to me.
Yeah.
Especially for how much money this company has, how much money they're going to bring in from this game. They know they're going to bring in, and how much time they've had to develop this. It's like, look at Lost Ark. That game didn't come out that long ago, and I mean, what was its development time? 3-4 years? And the dungeons in that game are the shit. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Probably the best thing they have going for that game.
Yep.
And you don't think D4 could have even got remotely close to that level? They're going to give you plain as flat dungeons?
Well, yeah, just think of it like this. So, like, remember that one dungeon from Lost Ark that had, like, it was like the jungle, like, Legends of the Hidden Temple style.
Yeah.
That one was probably one of the cooler ones. Now, imagine if like a zone only has that kind of dungeon in Diablo 4. does that mean that every other dungeon like has the exact same gimmicks?
No, they have
Because
slightly different gimmicks,
but
but they're
the
almost
same
all
though, right? Like
yeah.
slightly different. Maybe they'll exclude one on this one, but they'll have a different one, but they're all from that same set, right? From the original dungeon. So really that means that there are no other dungeons in that zone. There are just these little remix levels that give some kind of cheeky reward, usually for one specific class, which also I don't like that design. I don't like how they're doing these because you should be incentivizing people grouping together, and no one wants to go do a dungeon that only gives one class something. It doesn't give
Yeah.
their class anything. It's like just bad design for a game that's supposed to encourage teaming up.
Yeah, it's literally just they treat dungeons like just like a milestone to progress your renown bar.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they look at it as. They don't look at it like dungeons should be like this environmental attraction, you know, like for the zone. Because that's why I like MMOs so much, you know, like dungeons are like this cool attraction for the area you're in. They're like the culmination of the area. You know, it has the boss version of all the enemies you've been fighting in the zone. It kind of has the theme of the zone it's in, all that stuff. But all of Act One is just going to have, and D4 is just going to have essentially the same dungeon. 20 plus of them. How many dungeons are there?
I think a lot, if the original numbers I heard were correct, back when people were calling it an MMO, which apparently it is not now. So I don't know.
Lordy, lordy.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about the music? Because Diablo kind of is a legendary PC game in terms of music and mood. Like the original Tristram theme is probably one of the most famous PC gaming themes of all time. Period.
I think it doesn't hold a candle.
Yeah, yeah. I would agree with you there. No flavor, no identity. This game, that I think that's my biggest criticism of this game is it feels like it's trying to be so many different things that it doesn't have its own identity right now. And maybe that identity kind of solidifies as you get further into the game. I really hope it does. But just going back through Act 1 in my head, it just feels so generic other than a few key scenes like that beginning scene, which really that's the signature of the entire Act 1. Other than that, you really try and think identity. Do you feel the game has an identity?
Um,
Music's a huge
no.
part of that identity too. And that's kind of what I was getting
I
at.
don't think any game really has a good identity anymore.
It's a systemic problem. I'm sure you've all heard that term, boys and girls. It's systemic.
It's just I think it's every game, like you just said. Like I've been playing Resident Evil 4 recently. It's a good game. I like it a lot. But something that occurred to me is that almost all the ambiance of the area, even though the areas look better, they like really look a lot better. Like the way you play the game feels better. But going back and looking back at some of the old footage and people playing it, the ambiance of original Resident Evil 4 is way better. The music is something that stood out to me almost immediately. All the music that like kind of set the dark and evil mood of each room and kind of got more intense as you were fighting the zealots in the castle and shit like that. All that's gone in the remake. I realized it. It's a lot quieter of a game. And it kind of kills a little like
they
I don't know,
removed the music, so there's just no music.
No, there's music, but it's just a lot more ambient. You know, it's not like this actual like horror. I don't even know. I don't know the description really. You just got if you played Resident Evil 4 originally, you'll know, and if you played the remake, you'll just know what I'm talking about. Like it's just a quieter game in the music department. And, yeah, just realizing that and comparing the two, I was like, wow, Resident Evil 4 original just has a lot more ambiance to it because of that.
Yeah, that's a big trend in Western game development is like they really let music and mood and ambience take a backseat. If you really try and think of a memorable soundtrack outside of Japan, it'd probably take you a while to come up with one like recently. D4 definitely keeps that tradition going, in my opinion. I barely remember any of the sound or music in that game. Nothing really stuck with me.
Yeah, well, I think honestly, I feel like music artists that defined video gaming, those were all the first ones to get fucking their throats cut before anybody else because they were the first independent artists to get chopped.
Yeah.
You know, they could just, like, for instance, Mario Donald, he made the iconic music for Halo, and then they kind of just were like, peace, we don't need you.
Yeah.
You can go with Bungie. You're never gonna make another Halo song again. He actually hates Microsoft, I think. And same thing, he doesn't like Bungie either. You know, like everyone fucked him over. And he was like, when you think of those games, you know, you think original Bungie or original Destiny and like original Halo. That's all Marty O'Donnell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't work for those companies at all anymore. In fact, he will never work for those companies anymore because he doesn't like them actively.
Yeah. Yep. It's just something that doesn't sit well with Western game development. For some reason, they just don't respect music. They don't think they need music. A lot of American games are quiet, like what you're saying about RE4. That's definitely Capcom being like, we're going to try and take some Western sensibilities into account in this remake, and we're going to kind of tone it down a bit because, you know, Japan still keeps it pretty wild with the OSTs. All their games still have crazy. Maybe not all of the soundtracks are the best in the world, but they go for it. They all go for it.
I think the only reason, I think that there's a growing new philosophy in Japan that if they're going to make games that depict Western culture, that they're going to adhere to more of the modern Western cultural, they would call attributes, I'd call restraints, you know. But that's why you see like Ashley getting a little bit more toned down, you know, with a little bit more clothing and stuff like that, and them taking away the more provocative extra costume that you could get, not letting you look up her skirt anymore, because it's not like Japanese people care about that shit because they, you know, they the last people to be talking about that shit. It's the game I'm guessing think will be more popular in our culture, in our on our side of the world, so they kind of bill it more towards us than Japanese culture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that's kind of like what's going on, because I scratched my head at that too, because Japan seems they don't seem like a woke country at all almost, and seeing almost from like a outside perspective how woke Resident Evil 4 remake looks, it's kind of odd to be like how it would even begin to get as woke as it is.
I think they're dipping
really representative in any part of Japanese culture. Like, why Resident Evil 4 remake all of a sudden?
Yeah. It's I'm not sure if it's just them dipping their toes in the water, or if it's like a few big wigs up on the top of the board being like, we need to make more money, and we can't make more money unless we fucking bend the knee to the fucking green-haired armpit girls in New York City, you know? Maybe that's what's going on. But Japan doesn't usually play that game, so it's tough to know, but it's nothing too crazy is going on in Japan right now. I'm more worried about fucking Nakoti Yoshida fucking talking about JRPG being a derogatory slang term and shit. That's the type of shit that with Japan that's worrying me right now. But that's a whole nother preview.
Yeah, I hope that's just him like on one. No one agrees with him there.
Or bad translation maybe. Maybe it was like a slight mistranslation of the intent, which can happen with Japanese. It's a weird language. But I don't know. All right, broadcaster. Well, what are you thinking here, D4? You think, would you recommend one of our ill-advised listeners should buy one of these
Definitely
D4s? You think you should?
I mean, you can barely afford top ramen and pay the water bill to make that ramen. I mean, I'd definitely still put as many schmeckles together to buy it.
Yes. You know? Yes, buy the Ultimate Deluxe Edition right now.
Install it on your girlfriend's computer. All right.